Welcome back, gamers. Today we're going to be checking out one of my favorite two-player strategy games, The Duke. Now, The Duke was a successfully funded Kickstarter project, and I just recently saw it coming back into stores again, for another reprint. I saw it at my local Fun Again in Barnes & Nobles, so I thought it'd be fun to check out this game and give my reviews of it. If you already know how to play the game, go ahead and click on the box as usual to jump right to my conclusions. Otherwise, let's find out what's in the box and how you play the game.
It's board games with PeedMont.
Inside of the Duke, you will find, I'll get to that in 1 second, one rule book. This is another nice full color rule book with lots of scenarios and identification of all the pieces and even how to customize some pieces. The extra scenarios that come with the game as part of some Kickstarter rewards are a little difficult to figure out, but the basic game is pretty simple and can be learned from this very easily. Next we have two different movement reference cards, which are nice, and these are basically all you'll need after the first maybe game of it. And even then the icons are pretty self-explanatory and it comes pretty easy. But those are nice additions also, nice sturdy. Then like I said, there's actually a customization sticker sheet, two of them, where you can make your own piece. And once you know how the game plays and kind of what's going on in the game, you can do that and have your own custom piece, which is, again, a nice little addition. It's not quite perfect because the pieces are so nice, you don't really want one with stickers on it, but if you're into making your own pieces, it comes ready to go for that. Next, we have two different bags. These are actually relatively nice bags, and I like the colors of them, they're kind of different. And they're going to be filled with your playing pieces, and we'll check out these individually later. But one bag has light pieces, another bag has dark pieces. We'll check those out in a second. Next, you have the Duke playing board, or the board. And it's a really kind of nice, very basic board. It really fits with the theme really well and doesn't distract in any way. And on the back it has some thanks for the Kickstarter people. And then also, as part of the rewards, you get a bunch of extra kind of not part of the standard game tiles, and these are things like the dragon, which let you play a special variant, or a mountain for some terrain. You have flags for capture the flag. Then you have these two blank pieces, which are for the customization or customizable pieces, which is nice. And then some bonus pieces, the Duchess and the Oracle. Now the object of the Duke is simple. You are trying to capture your opponent's Duke piece. This is a lot like chess, I guess. So you're just focusing on getting this one piece, and if you capture that piece, you win the game. But the neat thing about the Duke are these really cool wooden tiles. You see, they're nice and thick, they're chunky, they're really fun, and they feel like this kind of old-timey game that you'd play at a pub somewhere. It's really kind of neat. But the real trick of the Duke is once you make a move with one of your pieces, you flip the tile over, and it gains a new set of movement. So you always start with this kind of black pawn piece showing, and then once you do I move, you flip it over and you have some other move. In this case, the Duke can slide left to right, and then after you do that, he flips over and he can slide up and down. The game sets up something like this, with the Duke in one of the two middle bottom squares for both you and your opponent, and then two footmen, which can be placed anywhere adjacent to the Duke, not diagonal. This game diagonal is not considered adjacent. So here, here, something like this. But my partner and I often kind of set up in this symmetrical setup just because it's, I don't know, it seems fair. Then you choose one player to go first, and you start playing. On your turn, you have two options. You can move one of your pieces, as I said, move them to some spot, flip them over, and they gain a new movement. Or you can draw a piece from the bag randomly and place it in a spot adjacent to your Duke. In this case, I have a seer, and my only place I can place adjacent to my Duke right now is right here. Play continues back and forth until someone can guard their opponent's Duke, basically a checkmate that they can't escape from. And that can happen in a variety of ways, and the game is really deep and interesting because you kind of have to pay attention to where can my Duke move, what might be on the other side of my opponent's pieces, what are on the other side of my pieces, and how does bringing new random characters in affect my gameplay. In the Duke, in a standard game, you'll find 15 different pieces. Of course, there are 3 footmen and 3 pikemen. They're kind of the weaker sets of pieces, but they're still cool. And on each piece, there's a unique movement and some unique special abilities, and a unique name. And each one has like these different kinds of movement abilities. And we'll look at the very simplest one. The footman just has these filled in circles. This is what's known as just a move action. So in this case, it could move up, down, left, or right, but it couldn't jump over anyone, and if it bumped into someone, they couldn't do that. And if there's an opponent piece, they could capture right there. So let's look at that real quick. Let's say in this case, this footman could move left or right. It couldn't move back because it would move off the board. Maybe in this case, it couldn't move to the left because it would bump into this pikeman, but it could capture this opponent's piece by moving one step forward. Of course, when you do that move forward, you flip the piece, and now it has a new set of movement abilities. Next, simple is called the slide. These are these filled in triangles. This means, in this case, the Duke can move any number of spaces to the left or right, following the same restrictions as the move ability. Basically, you can jump over people. If you bump into your own pieces, you have to stop. And if you run into an opposing piece, you can capture it, but not jumping over pieces. Similarly, in this case, the Duke could move anywhere here or here. If there was a piece in his way, he could only move here in these spaces. And similarly, if it was like this, the only place he could move was to capture this pikeman. You have to stop once you capture someone. Next is the jump ability. As you can see on this knight, there are some open circles there. And this does something unique. This lets you jump over pieces that are in your way to move to that space. Let's see, maybe something like this. This knight would have the ability to jump over all these pieces and hit that pikeman, because that's where that jump space lands. He couldn't move to the left with his move ability because that footman's in the way. He could move to the right, but probably the best thing would be to jump all the way up here and capture this pikeman. Very cool. The next ability related to jumps and slides is the jump slide. This is the only piece that I think has this assassin, and this is a very tricky piece to use. As you can see, it jumps over one space and then starts to slide, which does something interesting. Let's check it out. We'll say in this case, there was a knight right there, and that would be great to grab that knight. Unfortunately, the assassin has to jump one space first before it can start sliding, so it couldn't get that knight. It could get this pikeman here, or here, or here, because it jumps over the knight and then slides and gets them, but it could never get that one right next to it. This makes it a really powerful, but very difficult to use piece. Next, there is the strike ability, and these are these open stars, and these are basically long range abilities. We'll look at the long bowman because this makes a little more sense. The long bowman can shoot, basically capture a piece at long range. In this case, the long bowman sits here. Maybe there's a pikeman here. You would say you're going to attack, use a strike ability with your long bowman, flip them over, and capture this piece without having to move onto it. It's going to be really nice for covering large areas of the board without putting your own pieces in danger. And finally, the last kind of very interesting ability is the command ability. You can see these little like triangles in the corners of the boxes here. You can see there's actually some on the left and right of the general and underneath. And the command ability lets you move a piece. Basically, maybe I have my Duke here and he's stuck, but I'd like to get that Duke to be able to move along this row. I can flip my general to move the Duke into one of those commandable spots. In this case, maybe I'll move it just that one to the right. And now that my Duke is free to move up and down. And that's can be a very tactical maneuver. And there are not very many pieces that have this ability. And those are all the abilities in the kind of basic game. There are some other ones, Dread and Defend, and there are some even like special powers that those pieces I showed in the beginning, the Oracle and the Duchess have, that let you do some really weird non-movement type actions. But I haven't really felt the need to even start playing with those yet. I've played this game probably, I don't know what, 25, 30 times, and it's been fun every time. I haven't even delved into the expansion type pieces or the event scenarios or anything like that because the game is that fun as it is. And that's basically the Duke. You and your opponent take turns moving pieces or pulling pieces randomly from your bag to place next to your Duke. And that randomness, typically for me, would really take away from the game. But for this, it really adds to it. I wouldn't have expected that. But every game is different, and you always have to form your strategy on your feet as you're playing. You could never have a game plan coming into the game, because you never know what piece you're going to pull from that bag when you decide to get a new unit on the field. And I think that's amazing, and it really gives some players who are new to the game a chance to win, and players who maybe aren't as good at the game or aren't as strategic still have a chance to win. But clearly those who have a better understanding and more skill will definitely have a higher chance of winning. This really hits all the buttons for me. It feels like an old-timey game. Those wooden tiles are great. The bags, even the colors of the bags are nice, and it feels like something like, you know, the ever-changing aspects of war really represented here. Things aren't always going to go exactly as you think, and you're never going to have the piece that you want. And that really just adds to that strategy aspect of the game. You have to think on your feet. You have to come up with new things, new ideas as time changes, as pieces are removed, as your bag starts to get smaller. You know, you have to start to think, what else do I have in here? What can I use in the future, maybe, to win this game? I think it's great. Altogether, I think the Duke is an amazing game. It's super fun, unbelievably strategic, and it really like replaces, I guess, chess for me. If I never really had that much interest in chess, but I would never play having this game because it feels like that, and it feels like it's an ancient game. The theme of it really fits, and the board is nice and like plain, which I don't know, I actually really like. The tiles are great, and it feels like I'm playing this really ancient strategy game. Except you never know how it's going to turn out, how each game is going to play out, and I think that really adds to it. You can't ever plan. You have to come up with new strategies on your feet as the game progresses, which is amazing. Like I said, the components are really nice. I even actually like the bags, which are maybe compared to the Marvel Dice Masters, which are kind of flimsy little things. They're not super robust, but the colors are nice and they work really well for what they're designed for. The game comes with a lot of the expansion pieces, and if you get interested in that, there are some extra ones you can buy, some themed ones like Robin Hood or Conan the Barbarian or something like that. But again, I have never needed it, or even any of the extra ones that are in the box. I play this as is dozens of times, and it's always fun and interesting. It's one of the games my partner and I always come back to play, and it's nice because it doesn't really take that long. We had maybe one long game where we almost ran out of pieces and it took about 40 minutes. But otherwise, it's about a 15-minute game, and it's a lot like another game I reference a lot, Kamisado, where you a lot of times don't see it coming because there's a lot of stuff going on, and then suddenly, oh man, you got me. It's really fun. And that thinking about what happens on the other side of those pieces, what could possibly come out of my opponent's bag to get me, what could I get out of my bag, is all just amazing stuff that adds to the game. The cost is a little bit high. It's about $35 to $40, but I still would not hesitate to pick this up if you're into two-player strategy games. It's well worth it, except the pieces are amazing, everything works well, and I just wouldn't pass it up if I saw it.